important thing we can do right now is to meditate, to become the light beings we need to be at this time. That's why we're here, to lift this planet. We can make a change or we can fall back. And people are out there trying so hard to make a change. And so tonight we're going to do a chant. It's a Yogananda chant. And we're going to do it over and over again. So you just sing with me, repeat. We're going to keep repeating, so just sing the whole thing with me once you know the words. And let's try to change our minds on this planet to the light. We are light beings with a mission. That's why we're here at this time. This is such a crucial time on the planet. And I know you feel it. Change is trying to be made for the good. And we have to pull together and bring the power to that change through prayer and meditation. Teach it to your children, to the women that are carrying babies at this time. Meditate with them in your bodies. As soon as they're born, get them into meditation. This is the food of life. Door of my heart, open wide, eyes keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment, come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come to me. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? In this moment come through me.
Good evening, everyone. I'll begin tonight with a few basic points about meditation. Of course, when we are going to meditate, we should find a quiet place so that we will not have any distractions. We don't want to have our cell phone there. We don't want to have anybody around who needs our attention. So sometimes we have to get up very early in the morning to accomplish that. But we should, every morning, meditate before we start the day. And when we're meditating, people say, well, I'm meditating, I get these great ideas. Well, that's why you should keep a pen and pad next to you when you're meditating. If you have a brilliant idea that you can't let go of, just write it down. Write down the thought and know that you'll get back to it when you leave meditation. But go back to your meditation. Some people think they can just jump into meditation and jump out. It's like some people go to church to have been there on a Sunday, and then they feel like all's right with God and them. Meditation, you should probably do some initial preparation. Some people prefer to listen to some spiritual music before they meditate, or do some spiritual reading. Some enjoy chanting. But there should be some preparation in which you set your mind toward spiritual experience. Because really what you are doing in meditation is you are moving toward a more refined level of consciousness. And it's not just something you're doing to augment the present level of the world consciousness. You're meditating because you're seeking to open up and experience the greater level of being and awareness. And so some preparation is very good to do. And then some people meditate with different techniques. There's numerous meditation techniques. But if you are desirous of entering into a more enlightened level of living and experiencing, whatever technique you use and whatever changes you make along the way, ultimately you will be led by Spirit itself to that particular type of meditation that works for you, that will help you move away from the never-ending, incessant thinking of the mind. That's really what meditation is about doing. And I'll explain a little bit more of that as we go along. So, preparation is good. Some people, to meditate, they will count their breaths or have a certain type of breathing technique. Some people use a particular word or a series of phrases, mantras, to gently focus the mind. One very excellent method of meditating and moving into the meditation experience is the one that Norma does when she's done it with you a number of times. Satya Nama, with the fingers, Satya Nama. By operating that way, what you're doing is you're giving the mind something to do on a level of repetition. And as you're doing that, you're just simply helping to relax and disconnect the mental process of striving. We sometimes think of striving as something physical that we're doing. Striving is mental. It leads to physical things that we do. But we want to alleviate striving. We want to alleviate the ego-centered idea of getting something more, something better, something new. We want to, because we are desiring something more expanded, but it leads to this relaxing of the mental element that we have listened to and actually followed in our living up to the point deciding to try to expand our level of consciousness. So when we meditate, it's about rising above the accepted, usual, unending thinking of the world. We were born into that, and out of that, we formed our first identification of self. We naturally think that this thinking apparatus is who I am. All of this thinking from the personal perspective, based on a flawed idea, but we think very strongly, this is who I am. What I'm thinking is what I actually am. This is who but that's not true. You're a divine being, and it's like using a particular apparatus. We use the mind. Eckhart Tolle is very clear about this in his book, The Power of Now. The mind is an excellent instrument for operating certain conditions and circumstances in the world of thinking and the world of people. The problem we have is that the mind to us is no longer an instrument that we are using. But what has happened is we are being used by the mind. We don't see the mind as simply being an instrument that we can use and then, if we want to, put aside. We don't see it that way. We actually identify ourselves as the thinking, as the mind. And so it's not an easy task to quiet the mind. And that's really what we're attempting to do. We're not attempting to stop the mind from thinking. At some point, we may actually get to that place. But in the developing of this process, we simply want to relax or rest the mind so that what used to be on the important element, what used to be so absorbing that it had our attention, no longer is that absorbing because we're meditating, and the thoughts that are coming and going more or less become like the traffic noise sometimes outside, way outside. You're not aware of it. You're not thinking about it. You're not giving your attention to it. And that's the way it happens with meditation. These thoughts just kind of come and go, having no relevance. We're no longer attached to trying to follow them or consider them or figure them out. We're simply allowing the mind to rest in meditation. So we're rising out of the incessant thinking of the mind. That's the way Eckhart Tolle puts it, the incessant thinking. And that leads us, if we're rising out of the incessant thinking of the mind, we're rising into true awareness. We're rising beyond thought. We're rising to a level of being that actually experiences life in a completely different way As long as we're experiencing life through the initial image that we have of ourselves as being a body-mind in a world of separate others, as long as we're operating in the unenlightened state of consciousness, we are in some form of anxiety or concern about something. There's always something. And it's the reason why the news media is always, it has to be throwing stuff at us all the time, to be concerned about, angry about, worried about, because that's how they get us to buy their products. And we live in this state of being a physical, unaware, truly unaware being, supposing that we're aware, supposing that we see correctly and we're objective observers. Nothing could be more incorrect. There's no peace in the initial identification as the limited body-mind self. There is no true peace or no true awareness, and there's no true insight. Intuition is almost nil in that state of consciousness. So we're moving to this higher level of true consciousness, true awareness. And in doing that, what we accomplish is we begin to recognize in that everything is interconnected. We feel ourselves to be part of everything, even though we still know ourselves to be a separate physical body. We no longer know ourselves to be specifically that. We know ourselves to be much more than that. We know ourselves to be a grand level of awareness. And in that grand level of awareness, for no apparent worldly reason, we have this joy. We have this peace. Why do we have this joy? Why do we have this peace? Why do we have this insight into the matters that are taking place around us? What is all that? Well, modern-day Master Eckhart Tolle speaks to this whole idea of our world at this point is on the cusp. He's a modern-day master, and he is saying we are on the cusp of opening up to living in a new state of consciousness. And he doesn't hold out that it's a slam dunk, that it's going to happen. He says it's precarious. We may not make it. That's the way he puts it, because he sees that the pull toward the limited definition of life has become so strong in the thinking process of the world that we may not be able to extricate ourselves in any big way. I don't agree fully with that. I think that people will extricate themselves who are in that place of wanting it to happen, making their spiritual practice and their transformation a very important priority in their lives. They will transcend. Now, the world may go to hell in the handcart. And the prophets down through the ages say that it's hard for the ages not to perform according to that scenario, which says that the human race is too totally ensconced in ego-centered fear to extricate itself to a level of acceptance, love, and peace. So they say the fear will ultimately create such chaos and such conflict that there will be a mass destruction. that's not necessarily where I'm coming from, and many of the people that have entered this higher state of awareness, they say it's a matter of transcending one's own state of mind. We cannot fix the world. So let me just say, to enter this new state of consciousness is to be willing to release the old, limited perception of life and self. And Eckhart Tolle speaks to this in an interesting way, this new state of consciousness. This is from his book, A New Earth. In fact, at the heart of the new consciousness lies the transcendence of thought, the newfound ability of rising above thought, of realizing a dimension within yourself that is infinitely more vast than thought. You then no longer derive your identity, your sense of who you are, from the incessant stream of thinking that in the old consciousness you take to be yourself. What a liberation to realize that the voice in my head is not who I am. Who am I then? The one who sees that. The awareness that is prior to thought, the space in which the thinking or the thought or the emotion or the sense perception. So let me go over that again. What a liberation to realize that the voice in my head is not who I am. Who am I then? The one who sees that. The awareness that is prior to thought. The space in which the thought or the emotion or sense perception happens. So in the sense that he's speaking, as we enter this enlightened state of awareness, we are operating in a more refined, connected level with divine awareness. We are living fearlessly in the miracle of the moment. Everything appears to us in a much different way. So you can say that meditation is not, it doesn't alleviate the idea of taking action. Meditation, and they've done now enough research on this, and they're now saying, and I've got papers to that effect, but I don't have the time to read you these papers on these meditation research projects. But what they're saying about meditation, that just 8 weeks of meditation, people involved into it on a regular basis, changes the brain structure. It affects an area of the brain. Because they used to know that when a person is meditating, there is a relaxed level of consciousness. There is a subtle, beautiful peace. And that people in a meditative state do not react emotionally to negative, limited stimuli. They've done this, by showing photos one after another to people in the meditative state. And they've done all of this research. But what they didn't know is whether or not a practice of meditation leads to a state in which you are always at peace. In other words, you can handle so much more of the limited input that comes to us in the world and still maintain peace and insight. They didn't know that, but now they have done experiments over the last couple of years to test to see if it affects the activity of the brain, and it does. And I forget the name of the one area that's really affected, medulla, something or other, at the base of the brain. is affected powerfully. So they now believe that meditation practice does lead to an ongoing, more expanded level of awareness in which we are not so easily tossed this way and that way in our emotions by the changing stimuli of the thinking of the world. Before we enter into this practice of entering a higher state of awareness, we simply react. That's all we're doing. However things take place, we react to them. If they're going according to our personal desires and expectations, well, in those moments we have a certain modicum of peace and we get along. But when things aren't going according to our desires or demands, we are feeling negative emotions and we are reacting again to the circumstances. So you could say that the unenlightened person is defined by circumstances. They don't define themselves because they can't. They're simply reacting to a whole physiological thing that takes place because it's not going according to their desire, what they want, what they expect. And so they're being taken out of that level of peace, harmony. They have no insight. They don't know how to heal or cure themselves or anything around them. Too often they wind up in conflict and taking that negative emotion and spilling it all over everybody around them. So science today is advocating the benefits of a daily practice of meditation so that we can arrive in an enlightened state where we are defining ourselves and are not being defined by circumstances. And that means, as Eckhart Tolle relates to it, we more or less are in that awareness that sees the reactions, that sees the thinking, and no longer is the thinking, no longer is the reaction, but sees and knows from this expanded level of beingness. And therefore, it has no grievances. I suspect that most people in unity don't carry a lot of grievances. If you're still carrying grievances, you need to really get more focused on your spiritual practice. I mean, if you're still holding negative thoughts about others, conditions, circumstances, maybe you even have negative thoughts about the world, how terrible it is, I don't know if I can get on in it, but, you know, and maybe you're doing that. Well, it's time to transcend that. We weren't born to be defined by circumstances. We were born to see our way free. We were going to go through that initial state of consciousness, the initial limited state, but we're going to transcend it. But as Eckhart Tolle is saying, the state is so with us. We have grown so used to operating from fear, from concern, from anger, from worry, from doubt, that we don't have yet, maybe we won't have the faith to do the practice of the presence, which requires the laying down of the ego-centered definition of me. If you still are trying to vindicate your personal idea of self, your rightness, you are really in a seriously difficult condition. You're simply going to meet more and more inharmony, conflict, and suffering. So the necessity is to get awake in the process of living, so that you can live joyfully, happily, freely, able to become what I call an emissary of divine peace or mystical peace, an emissary of divine healing. How does that take place? Everything around you knows you. It's part of you. So that if you're maintaining a consciousness of blessing, forgiving, immediate, relaxing, no grievances, peace, helping, serving, letting everything be just as it is, the way it is. No resistance, no trying to fix it, change it, make it look like you. Having given up the ego-centered idea of self through spiritual practice, you will find the kingdom of heaven. You will find joy and peace that has nothing to do with circumstances meeting your personal desires or your demands. That's what our journey in life is really all about. And there's no reason to take offense at ourselves, because no one has escaped the initial limitations of the incessant thinking, ego-centered definition of self. No one has escaped it until one has seen the devastation of it. And one realizes that I can't necessarily fix all that's wrong with the world outside, but I can fix my own consciousness. I can transcend the consciousness that creates all that trouble that's in the world. And by doing that, I am helping to fix the collective human consciousness by sustaining my own peace of mind, my own spiritual practice, my own ability to bless and to not respond in a negative fashion. That's mastery. Again, I want to remind you that the New Age is filled with illusions of mastery being mind over matter. I'll use my mind and I'll get conditions and circumstances to do what I want it to do so it fits my desires, my dictates, my demands. That's never going to happen, folks. Okay? You can throw in the towel on that one. That's like holding a gun to the sky and say, okay, I want you to rain now. Mastery is the ability to sustain the insight that everything, these are my final words for this talk, the ability to sustain that peace of mind that everything is sacred. So we're going to practice meditation again this evening using our beautifully calibrated Tibetan bowls, which help us to enter that higher vibration by letting the thoughts of the world simply be whatever they are. We're not trying to stop them. We're not trying to control them. We're not trying to use them. We're just letting them be. Let them come and go. You can watch your thoughts come and go, the way you might watch a colorless, soundless, uninteresting parade. Just watch your thoughts pass by and allow yourself to be sitting here accepting the moment just as it is. If you don't have a particular meditation technique, when we get to that place of silence, you may want to use this particular thought, these ideas. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God. waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only God waiting for me to see it correctly. As we go forth from this meditation, let us take a moment or two to pray for those whose names have been submitted to our prayer list. In this refined state of consciousness, we are visualizing what is true, our oneness with divine harmony, peace, and wholeness. So when the name is called, you simply had to let the word, the feeling, the thought, wholeness, go forth to that name.
Lloyd and Sharon Posnikoff. Larry Posnikoff. Lloyd and Sharon Posnikoff. Olga Posnikoff. Kai V. Annie Rains and Ivan. Steve Taylor. Cozy. Otto. Sarah. Lene Desiree. Nicole Williams NGO. Stacy. Alicia Santelli. Mira Morrison. Lisa Langley Barrow. Dalton Barrow. Rachel and family. Taylor Addison. Melinda M. Scott Bellin. Daniel Rivard. Dan James. Corky Volt. Cynthia McGreevy. Lisa Myers and daughter. Nancy Lee. Sherry Jacobson. Sandy Chamberlain. Teresa Rodriguez. Mike S. Juan. The United States government. All COVID patients and helpers. Love for all people on this planet. We pray for the air, the water, the earth, all life on planet Earth. At this time, if you'd like to call out a name, you can. Shan. Dow. You see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people's names that have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us practice feeling the universal presence, the peace and love of this presence, moving in the consciousness of everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. This peace and love moving through the consciousness of everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us. And so the divine consciousness continues to expand in the awareness of human beings everywhere in these United States of America, and continues to move and expand, inspire and heal everyone on planet Earth. And this refined level of awareness, this new consciousness, bringing about healing and harmony in the relationships of human beings and all creatures, all plant life, all mineral life, harmony with all the waterways and all the marine life, an open awareness of our interconnectedness and yet a revelation that everything is sacred. And so we live in this sacred awareness, and that in itself establishes God's plan for the new heaven and the new earth, which are one. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And the way we do this is we bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder so that we can continue our ministry. And those of you that are watching on a screen, you may have a particular area that you can press, or you can bring your stylus to touch it, and it will operate to open up the different ways you can tithe to Unity of Boulder. Or you can just go to unityofboulder.com, and on our website you will see the different ways you can make your donation. But for now, let us all bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder Spiritual Center. And let's bless it with this affirmative prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
O my mind, learn thou self-control. O my mind, learn thou self-control. Enter not the house of senses, enter not the house of senses. Learn thou self-control. Learn thou self-control. Enter not the house of senses, enter not the house of senses. Learn thou self-control. Learn thou self-control.
Thank you for joining us this evening and living your life accordingly so that we begin to heal ourselves and the world as one. We have our usual Sunday services. Santisha will be doing the 11 o'clock service on Sunday. I will be doing the 9 o'clock service on Sunday. I'll be doing a follow-up again, another follow-up on the last Sunday's talk. So if you've been following what I've been saying on Sunday, then tune in and you'll hear some more of it. Have a beautiful evening, everybody.
If you heard a little raspiness in his voice, it's because Kaya keeps chasing the elk when he goes on a walk. He goes over hill and dale, and this guy keeps yelling for him to come back. So pray for Jack and pray for Kaya, that this doesn't happen anymore.
Pray for the elk to go over the hill.
We want him to keep his voice.
Right.